happy Friday to everyone. It's good to see you all. For those who are watching later, our topic today is something I'm super, super pumped about, which is achieving greater mental clarity. So if you don't need to hear that, I would love to meet you because I kind of feel like everyone, including me, needs more of this right now. So I see our special guest has joined us for today. And so give us just a second to pull Katie into the conversation. It's loading.
Hey,
Hi, Katie.
how you doing?
I'm doing great. You look really nice on this rainy Friday. I'm going to turn the volume.
You too. Yeah, it just started. Well, actually, the sun's coming back out, so that may be a good sign for us.
There you go. Yes,
Yeah,
I love it. Well, thanks
yeah.
so much for joining me. I know you have a packed schedule, so I appreciate your time. And like I said, I'm super, super pumped about this topic. I kind of feel like, I mean, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. If you're not feeling scatterbrained, I would love to meet you because I feel like we all are a little. And so we're gonna talk more about how people watching can achieve greater mental clarity uh, now and even when the pandemic is over. To help us on this topic, like I said, we have a very special guest, just one of the kindest and sweetest spirits I've ever met, Katie, who is owns a coaching practice, and she helps her clients with this on a regular basis. So I thought that she would be an amazing guest to talk through this topic with. So I'll let her introduce herself. They know your name is Katie, but can you tell them just a little bit more about your business and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, number one, thank you. I always enjoy talking and learning with you, and I think just as humans, we're always doing that, right? We're always
Hmm.
becoming more clear on who we are, and kind of who we want to be. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm still discovering and learning, and thankful for conversations with Ashley and getting to learn from her and learn from those around us, especially in the midst of challenging times. We learn a lot. So
Hmm.
it doesn't make it easy, but we move one step forward. So yeah, I'm a leadership coach, and I work with clients doing one-to-one coaching to help them move forward. And that looks different for each of them. Most of the times it's leaders that want to grow because they want to help others grow. And when we better know ourselves, we can better help pour into and invest in the growth of ourselves. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all you do. It's incredibly important work and something we were talking about earlier. I love this field that we're in because Katie and I are both coaches. We're both Myers-Briggs certified, but so any other industry we'd be considered competitors. But I just love how collaborative the field is and how focused it is on helping you guys um, flourish, just like my business name says, whether that's reading a book, working with her, working with me, attending a class, whatever it takes, we just want you to really flourish in the work that you're doing. So thank you for all you do and for being here today. Um, yeah, I guess I'll just kick it off with, for anyone watching who um, is interested in the topic but not super clear, if you will, what we mean by mental clarity. Can you just tell us how you would define mental clarity?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that could be different for everyone. For me, I've found that over my life, I have a lot of thoughts and emotions and don't fully understand them. I mean, again, in the
Mhm.
midst of all this and changes, even last week, I woke up last Thursday morning and had some sense of unease, but didn't slow down enough to recognize what that was. And it really kind of wrecked my day a little bit. So mental clarity would be being clear not only of what we're thinking, but what we're feeling and how that's impacting us um, on a day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis. So when
Mhm.
we achieve that and we have a better sense of what's going on, we're always working on that. We can more focus our energy. And again, that's a big theme throughout my life of feeling really unfocused at some points.
Mm.
That anxiety comes up, and when we have that focus and flow, especially at work, it's so powerful, and just really encouraging. People talk about flow when you get into work that you love, and you can really focus on and enjoy. So
Mm. Oh, so much to dig into there. I'm already excited. Okay. So, we mentioned, for historical note for anyone watching this much later, obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I think that that's really, turned upside down a lot of people's physical, logistical, emotional situations that they have, and kind of sort of predisposes us to feeling a little scattered. But I'm not sure in your experience, but for me, sometimes I may not even realize that I'm in that state. I may not realize I'm not as focused as I could be. So I want to jump back to something you said about some of the signs that people might experience, even if they're not fully aware that they're in that mental clutter state. You mentioned a sense of unease or feeling unfocused. What are some other signs that it's time to pause and clear some of that mental clutter?
yeah, I can speak for me, and it would be different when I'm talking to clients or different people. It shows up in different ways. For me, I don't want to slow down. I actually was researching and found an article on Psychology Today about the related. I think it was from 2000 or yeah, 2018, but it related so much to today of just suppressing, especially our negative feelings,
Mm.
um, because they're hard to deal with. And then this article talked about dreams and how
Oh.
my husband and I were actually talking about, on a personal note, that he read that people are obviously sleeping not as well during these
Mm.
uncertain times, and saying they're having more vivid dreams. And I know I have. And
Wow.
the article said that when we suppress those negative thoughts, they can show up in dreams and then affect our sleep. And that's just kind of a vicious cycle, right? So, yeah, those are just a few of mine.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. I just would never have thought about the dream part of that, but you're so right, because our brain is trying to process what's going on, especially if we don't take time to pause during the day and do some of that proactive, I guess, pausing and processing. So, wow, that's so fascinating. And I love what you said too about the fact that it's different for different people. So I feel like at the same time, on one side, it gives us the freedom to realize that if someone else is experiencing this differently, it doesn't mean we're wrong or everything should be perfect. Um, and on the other hand, it gives us an opportunity to really think through, journal or whatever people need to do to process this, but think about what that looks like on an individual level, because it does show up differently for different people.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that I've seen a recent I can't even remember where I saw this, but a recent video on some of the we're all kind of experiencing the pandemic differently, and while some people don't have as much going on, others, maybe say frontline healthcare workers or first responders or people that have become significantly busier during this time, are in go mode so much that for them it looks like something along the lines of being so busy that you don't even notice it
Yeah. Yeah.
until you slow
Exactly.
down.
Yeah. Yeah. We slow down, and sometimes we can just crash. And yeah, and sometimes we don't have the capacity to do that, right? Like we, the healthcare workers, are it's a lot of our, how we're built of fight or flight.
Mm.
And sometimes, again, if there's a bear chasing after us, we don't want to slow down. um,
Right.
but if it's a work situation that I know in my past, I definitely have gotten. So an example that I learned about myself that seems silly is when I worked in the corporate world, we had access to same calendars, and you could see when people were open
Hmm.
and whatnot. And I may be jamming on a project, and yes, my calendar's open, I don't have a meeting necessarily, but someone would like throw a meeting on my calendar 5 minutes before they wanted to
Oh,
meet.
wow. Ooh, please don't do that, people.
And that would, I'm a very, I like to have my schedule planned out and controlling of my schedule sometimes to a fault.
Yeah.
And so it would trigger this like
Mm,
just sense of, oh, what in me? And it'd make me upset. And if I slow down and I finally recognize that what the thought behind that in the story, as Brene Brown would say, and the story I was telling myself is they don't respect me. They don't think I'm, have things I'm doing.
mm,
But in reality, if I look at it in the most positive light of actually, they really respect me. They want my time. They want my help with
mm,
something. And that helped me, yeah, just like be more clear about why I was so upset and then manage that and actually be
mm.
grateful. So,
I love that you just went there with that because it's perfectly tied into the last conversation that I had with Jonathan about emotional intelligence. It's really a perfect illustration of being aware of what you're feeling and maybe why you're feeling that way, what your triggers are, so that you don't walk into that meeting already with your fight or flight in full force.
yeah.
um, uh, and maybe aware of some good, calendaring hygiene, not doing that to people. But sometimes we have urgent situations, so I understand that. Um, so we talked some about what it looks like when you don't have that clarity and you're living in more of the mental clutter. On the flip side, what does it look like when you do have that clarity? What does that desired state look like, at least for you or any clients you've worked with?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I've learned through just neuroscience science and brain-based coaching is people coming to their own insight, or we've talked about
Hmm.
actually aha moments.
Hmm.
Um, and some of it from the outside in looks like really simple. I've had clients come to the realization of, oh, I just want to feel like carefree. And,
Mm,
and we came with the goal of maybe I want a promotion or something like that. And so that clarity of, wow, I thought I wanted one thing. And there's a lot of voices. So, my spouse or my boss or someone may be telling me I need something and I trust that. But then if I dig deeper, and then I've had a client recently have a huge aha moment that, oh, there's imposter syndrome going on here. And that is not something that I brought up. And I have had, it is just amazing that people really can come to the best solutions themselves because we know ourselves better than other people.
mm,
As much as we need, I'm not saying don't get feedback and don't have wise
sure.
counsel. But my clients just like really encourage me that I ask the questions and give them space and a safe place to think and feel. And they come to these realizations that really help them have sustainable, consistent change over time. So that was a
Mm.
little answer.
Oh, that was beautiful. I feel better just listening to that. And you're really underscoring the power of a good coaching conversation. I know you and I both have both coached and been coached, so kind of experienced that from both sides. And like you said, you often come into the conversation thinking you know what you need, and or maybe not knowing what you need, and then you leave with something totally different. Because the art of coaching really is asking those insightful questions that helps the person understand for themselves what they need, not you telling them, what they need. Um, and so on along those lines, let's say either someone listening doesn't currently have a coach or doesn't have an appointment with their coach today, but they want to achieve some more mental clarity today. What are some things that they can do to help clear some of that mental clutter?
Yeah. And I think number one, it's slowing down for most of us. Those questions, we can ask ourselves questions and it's important to think through these things, because for me, sometimes I jump too quickly to another person because I
Mm-hmm.
am a verbal
Mm-hmm.
processor. Like I have a coaching session right after this where I'm thankful that he will ask me questions and I'll have that third party perspective. And I've found that do that for myself, but for me, it's, yeah, taking that time to just be, to get away from technology. That's been a big thing for me.
Mm.
Um, I recently got back on Instagram for this because I think I
I
told
hope
you
that's
one.
a positive thing.
Yes, no, well, for business, and I think it's all about being intentional. I was completely addicted and got off years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And it's that intentionality of, okay, why am I going to my phone? Why am I scrolling? Sometimes we don't even know how long we're scrolling. I heard on the radio years ago, when you check social media, you should stand on one foot because that makes you like more aware of how long you're doing
Oh,
it.
I love it.
So the main point is, and that is slowing down, asking yourself questions, whether that be just looking up at the sky or the physical act of writing really helps me. So
Mm-hmm.
those are a few things, but I mean, I think you brought up some. I'd be curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Sure, yeah. You know, you mentioned slowing down. Writing is something that helps you. I know, speaking in some of our Myers-Briggs terms,
Oh, yeah.
one thing that I share with people is that, broadly speaking, those who prefer introversion tend to process more alone and through journaling. That doesn't mean, again, broadly speaking, not everybody is fits into that cookie cutter. Um, and so for me, and most of my audience knows I'm an introvert. So for me, that would be absolutely critical, is to do exactly what you're saying, unplug. But I love that you kind of, it's not even just pausing, it's like distancing yourself from some of these things, turning them off so that they're not adding, clutter to your head. So, um, pausing in the sense of finding some quiet, solitary moments. And if you do prefer more of that extroverted side, again, broadly speaking, a lot of extroverts process information by talking it out with someone.
Mhm.
So, I've been very concerned about some of my extroverted friends during these times when we're all, stuck in our houses, especially if they're living alone, because it's a lot harder to get that processing time. Um, and so I see you're not in, and I've been very concerned about that. So I think, pointing back to the first comment you made about it really looks different for everybody. Maybe the first step is even just pausing and asking yourself, what would uh, help you slow down? What does that look like for you? Is that journaling? Is that talking to someone? Is that setting aside a time that's busy on your calendar so that you aren't bothered? Is that going for a walk in nature? There are plenty of ways that we can find that even now, um, when we don't have kind of the normal situations that we're used to. But I feel like that in itself causes a little bit more confusion and clutter because we had our habits, we had our routines, we had our places we were going, our people we were talking to, and all that was a little bit turned up on its head. So what I'm hearing a little bit in kind of where our conversation is a lot of intentionality, um,
Yes,
and
yes.
being proactive about it. Is that something you found as far as, is it important to get ahead of it versus reacting to it once it happens?
Hmm. That is a good question. Get ahead of it. Um, I want to ask another question back at you.
Okay. Well, you can if you
I,
want.
what
This
is
is
getting ahead of it?
good. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad you clarified. Haha. um, so what I mean by that is, do should those listening, should you, wait until we feel that sense of scattered mental clutter to address it, or should we proactively put time on our calendar to journal or talk to someone or process or pause? before we feel that sense.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I can only speak from me for
Sure.
the advice thing, and um, yeah, we have to ask questions of each other, but I like it'll get way too late, and my husband can tell you that I prefer extroversion, and that has been really hard for me during this time.
Mm,
I will go out on a walk and just call a family member, a friend, and I think good
mm,
community is super important um, because of that. And one thing that you bring up with Myers-Briggs is, that midpoint that Carl, or midlife that Carl Jung talks about of we interact in our preferred dichotomies, or for you it may be introversion, for me it may be extroversion, and then all of a sudden in life we realize that, oh, actually, like, my time alone can be really good, and I can flex into that, and I need to.
mm-hmm,
Is that going to be where I'm most comfortable? No, but like, being uncomfortable helps us grow.
mm,
And I had to do that before I was married, and I spent a lot more time by myself. And I came to realize, like, this can be really good, but it's that mental. So back to your question of like getting ahead of that mental spiral and clutter and anxiety, when for me it either I'm going like 20,000 miles an hour, and I crash, or I'm completely paralyzed and I feel like I can't get anything done. I'm just bouncing, maybe I'm just clicking on
mm,
different tabs, scrolling. So that's when I know I've hit a point that it's a little bit too late, but there's
mm-hmm.
never too late. That's a very
Yeah,
pessimistic
that's true.
thing. Usually by then it's like, I just want to go to bed and wake up in the morning. I'm getting better, and everyone, yeah, hopefully is growing through this.
Hmm. Oh, well said. You got to be uncomfortable to grow. I could not agree more with that. So, oh man, I'm hearing a lot of really great tips. So being, I think we landed on being a little more proactive. It depends on you, you know yourself better than anyone, but maybe plugging some time into your calendar to do whatever helps you pause. That, may look really different for different people. It may not, it may even seem a little counterintuitive if you prefer extroversion and that pausing for you is actually more social time, because that's how you recharge. So, but either way, being a little proactive with that, kind of what I heard, recognizing your triggers. So like you said, if someone kind of springs something on you for you personally, that's something that may trigger you, but recognizing what that looks like for each person, either finding a good coach or just pausing to either journal or talk through maybe some questions about what's going on, what is clouding my thoughts right now, asking some good questions of yourself, or having someone maybe that you trust asking you some good questions, whether that's a coach or a loved one, maybe.
Yeah.
Anything else come to mind in the way of tips before we wrap up?
Yeah. And just knowing like that safe space is really important. One thing that another coach shared with me is an article called The Neuroscience of Leadership. And knowing too
Okay.
that in it talks about the brain being quite like a 2-year-old, where if someone tells you what to do, we
Mm,
may kind of push back. And change is hard. Like, we are naturally resistant. And anyway, so if anyone wants to talk about the neuroscience behind all this, I am happy to chat and continue to learn with you, because it's fascinating. The heart.
mm. I knew I liked you. I'm a neuroscience junkie with this stuff. It's so fascinating to me. Oh, I love it. Well, this has been super helpful. I don't see any other questions from the audience. So if you have any other questions, feel free to either comment. We'll post this later, or reach out to either of us. So if people are interested in learning more about you and what you do, is the best place to send them your website, which is adkinstalent.com.
Yeah, that's it. Atkins
Okay,
with a
so
D, not like
Yeah,
the
right. So
diet. Yeah.
Adkins talent.com. Is that right? Okay. Or, certainly reach out to either of us on social media. You now know both of our Instagram handles, so contact us anyway that works for you. And I definitely, again, we'll put a plug in for let us know if you found this helpful. If you want a part two, maybe there are some things you were thinking we didn't cover. If you want this to continue, I will keep dedicating my weekends to it. And, feel free to share any topic suggestions or speakers that you want to see. And otherwise, we hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and that you feel a little bit more mental clarity after our chat today. Thank you so much for being here, Katie.
Yeah. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.
Bye, Ashley.
Bye.